I'll bring to order the June 16th meeting of the Ojai Arts Commission. So if you'd like to do the roll call, please go.
Chair Chisholm.
Present.
Vice Chair West.
Here.
Commissioner Grew.
Grout.
Grout, my apologies.
Present.
Commissioner Steiner.
Here.
And Commissioner Freeman.
Here.
Perfect.
And I don't know why I'm calling you Gail either, Robin. I'm sorry. It's been a heck of a day. And we'll go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And if staff would like to lead us in that, please.
Go ahead and stand. Right hand over the heart. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So that's the second time I've actually been in America and that's read, and the first time I've been chair when that was read. I became a citizen in December after 35 years in America. Right, public comments. Wow, we have some. So things are changing on the Arts Commission, aren't they? Right, we'll start off with Mark. If you'd like to come up and tell us what you're going to, what your plans are and your thoughts are for the SHAP building. And thank you for coming tonight. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Members of the commission, new members, welcome new members. It's great that you guys are contributing here. Nigel asked me to come forward with this and present this idea that's been floated around for the last few months. It's got a lot of attention, and so I could, I'm here to kind of talk about it in detail on what's been going on with it and the exact details to it. And so it's the proposal for a Ojai Art Institute at the Chaparral campus. And it would be taking the existing structures and reusing all of them, not really tearing down anything, and just repurposing the existing structures and building some new structures, as well. But maybe it could happen over time, but there would be some new facilities that would be incorporated into the plan. And if I could just go over that plan really quickly, I brought a little kind of a enlarged version of it here, but it has the white is all the existing structures, and so we're calling out hypothetical programs that would be within the Art Institute: a dance school, a music school. There'd be a big box theater for a theater school, a black box. I'm sorry, big box. Then there's the metal structures in the back, maybe a welding school and a sculpture, pottery school, and then also a painting school, and that beautiful north-facing elementary or the preschool in the back. Gallery spaces. And then in the front, we were thinking of maybe like a cooking school with that would cater to the front courtyard space. That would be like a public plaza with maybe like a cafe kind of a situation and turn the theater into a coffee shop, for the visiting artists to perform and the students to perform into. And in the center of the courtyard, it's a bit large courtyard, so we take about half of it and make like a community space that would be used by all the community for various uses, but also commercially could be rented out as like a hall for weddings, or maybe like a larger modular kind of a theater. I'm sure Kim's aware of those, that they bring in modular units for seating, and it could seat maybe more than the black box theater. But then also be a housing element, and I know affordable housing is a big issue, but it's my vision to have like a mixed use live work for artists that would inhabit the space, and also artists in residency programs. But maybe there'd be visiting artists who would come in and they would have a place to live and teach, so it'd be like a campus kind of environment. And so that's the kind of the plan that has been laid out. And I had this PowerPoint that couldn't do, but like to go backwards a little bit. This all started by the proposal that was being floated out there by the developers to do the 200-room hotel, and the reaction it got, and so it was kind of like what if we do this idea? But in that idea there was maybe some good ideas of doing the plaza in the front and restoring the old tower. I thought that was a good idea. There's some pictures of the tower the way it was when it was originally built. It was a beautiful tile decorated tower in the front there. So I'd maybe glean on those ideas, and there's been other architects and people who have thrown out ideas that have kind of mixed into this. One of them was the opening up the thoroughfare through from Attilaha Street and have an opening that would come right into the plaza area in the center of the campus, bringing more of a flow from the community into the central plaza space. But then people ask me, what's the why of the project? And there's been a group of us that have come forward and offered up some really good ideas, and I'd like to read this. It's the why is an offering an enriched and unique environment, fostering and supporting the arts in all its dimensions and forms through inspiring, educating, mentoring, cultivating, and nurturing artists of the future. And so one of the premises that we laid out at the beginning of the project was that the campus should stay in the public realm and remain an educational facility. And I think that's still true today. Another one of the premises of the project is that it would become a downtown hub of activities for the community, and create sort of this energy in the downtown that right now I think we all feel like the tourist industry is kind of getting more and more popular, and it's kind of Ojai has been becoming such a popular space for the tourists that it would maybe this kind of project would bring in artists and young people that are learning the arts, and kind of change the dynamics a little bit of the downtown, and be less of a tourist community, which it is, but bring back the what we all know as Ojai as being an artist community foremost. And so that was one of the premises of the project. And then we also think the project should generate income for it should be a money maker. So whatever uses go in there, there should be a business plan, and the money the school district would be expecting a certain amount of return for giving up the property, or to that it should definitely have a business plan and make money. And also it should be there should be a nonprofit formed, and so the nonprofit would kind of run the project, and the community, kind of a community board of people who would decide on what the uses would be, and have it be run in that manner. And so, and this is something one of my teammates came up with. He called it a Kanaloa experience. Kanaloa is a Hawaiian god, and he said that the Kanaloa experience is or opportunity is doing the right thing in the right place at the right time, with the right intention for the right reasons with the right people. And so we feel if we do these things, the gods will come to our favor and assist us in this huge endeavor, which we all feel it's giant, but we think we think we can make it happen. And so I don't know if you guys know the history of the school district property, but the Ojai School District began researching the idea of surplusing the property way back in 1979. And then I have a whole timeline, but they went through a whole process of putting the property into surplus, which culminated in the proposal of the hotel and all that. But it was a long process, and I took part in some of the discussions early on. I think it was back in 2016 or so. They gave a tour of the campus, and they said, "Hey, we're going to open this thing up, for some kind of development proposal." And I was thinking, well, what could be there? And so I'd been thinking about the idea of what is the best use for this property, since then. And then when the playground proposal got so much heat, I said, okay, now I think it's now or never. Let's put this out, put this idea out, and Laura at the newspaper picked it up, and then it got a lot of really good attention. So I've been getting nothing but great feedback. The only negative feedback I've been getting is from the school board. They're saying, what's coming, what are we getting out of this? And so they want us to show that it's going to, the business plan and how it's going to make money. And I hope we can do that. We're working on that right now. And so we're hoping to do that and show the school board how this project could be, a win-win for both them and the community. And so I think my time's up almost. Okay. Well, in closing, what are the obstacles and issues? Community support, I think getting the word out, and getting the support of the community, and tell the school board, hey, this is something that we really want to see happen, and get the community behind the project. I think that's our biggest issue and obstacle. Getting the school board to support us, and the finances, and I have this one in here. It's my ego. This is not my project. This has got to be a community project. It's got to be, everybody's got to embrace this project for it to happen. It can't be, oh, Mark's, doing this thing, and it's. I'd rather pass the baton on and let you guys pick it up, maybe. But I'm dedicated to it. But I really don't want it. I really feel it can't be this one person's idea. I think it's got to be a community, effort for this to happen. So, well, anyway. So what we're looking forward to is maybe in this upcoming election is, putting the good word in, during the school board's election process, and say, hey, we'd like to know if you're going to support this project or not, and not that that's the number one issue for these school board people. I know they're all doing good work in there, but I think it should be a issue in the upcoming election. All right. Any questions or?
We're actually not allowed to ask questions or make any comments.
Oh, really? Is it public comment? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but what I would like to say, perhaps we can put this on the agenda for the next meeting, so that then we can
great
discussion about it.
Sure.
Really grateful for you to come in and give us an overview of that. And I know I got a ton of questions.
Sure.
I'm sure everybody else does as well, and I'm pretty certain the city council has a bunch of questions, and Susan's sitting right behind you.
Sure.
So she can kick in on that when it's her turn on Tuesdays.
Yeah, well, I've gotten feedback from, that from most all the city councilmen, the city's behind it, and so it's not the issue. I think it's the funding and the city and the school board is the issue, and so it's great that we're getting so much great support. But so I have a second issue. I don't know if that was a good time or if I let other people take their turns, but I was approached recently by Christopher Wallen. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. Christopher, he has a project called the Solar Arts Project, or so he's interested in creating sculptural, beautiful solar installations, and he has his eye on. I think Bill Wyrick said a good place for an installation, and there's city money behind it. I guess this chapter, what's it called, Chapter 21, that the bed tax is paying for, to build these sustainable projects. And so he has. We met, and we think it would be a great idea to do a design competition for one of these installations. And I actually brought it up with my. I'm on the board of the Ventura County AIA chapter, and I brought it up to them, and they got really excited about the idea. And so they would love to come in and partner with the city and do a design competition and open it up and see what kind of great creative ideas might come about, with something like that. And maybe we could see something built. It's not the front parking lot, but it's the back farmers market parking lot that they have their eye on doing like a shade. It would be a shade structure for the farmers market, but they also have solar panels. But the idea is it wouldn't be one of those ugly things you see like at the athletic club. It'd be something beautiful, something architectural and something creative, artistic like. And I think it'd be right up your guys' wheelhouse. Maybe you guys could be the jurors for the competition.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate it. And, you know, I have heard about that project, as a matter of fact. So it's something that we should be talking about too. Right. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it. I know you're a super busy guy. So thanks a lot. Right. This is a first. We've got more public comment now. As it turns out, because Mark was afforded more time, everybody else gets a bit more time as well. So don't feel overly rushed. So Ray, you're up at the plate.
And Chair, as a reminder, during this time it is for public comments on items that are not on the agenda. Any agenda items we can go ahead and take on.
Oh, we have got, that is an agenda item 13, B, 3. Okay. All right, so I guess you're waiting until we get there, is that right?
Yeah, unless you'd like to go ahead and do it otherwise.
No, we can just wait as long as you guys don't mind. It's fun, isn't it, this? Right, consent items then. We'll move on to consent items. Minutes of the meeting.
Excuse me.
Recommendation is to approve the minutes.
I put in a speaker's card for a public comment. Yeah. Wayne
It's on
Maynard?
agenda item 3, is that right? Is that Wayne?
Yes.
So that's under the agenda is public comment.
Oh, right, on 3. Okay, my apologies. So 3, B. Okay, Wayne, you're recognized. Off you go.
Thank you very much. My name's Wayne Maynard. I'm a resident of Ojai on Gridley Road. And my comment is just a very simple administrative request. The city, as you know, adopted Ordinance 929, which restructured the commission. And part of that reduced the non-resident members on the commission to 2. And it also added a new provision that says a quorum cannot include a majority of non-residents. And so what I would request is that as part of your roll call in the minutes, that you identify which commissioners are residents and which commissioners are non-residents, so that we know when we look at the minutes what a quorum was. So anyway, that's my request, just that it be for transparency, we know who's residents and who's are not. So, thank you very much.
All right, we got it. Thanks very much. I think it's valid. Right, so there's nothing else that's going under public comments because we've got 5C. And is that B that Ray wanted to speak on? Is that? I can't quite read, Ray, what you put on here. Is it B or 13? Yeah. B. 5B. Okay, got you. All right, we'll get to you then. All right, consent items. Minutes from the last meeting. Anybody got any problems with them? I'm sure you all read through them over a nice glass of Chardonnay. Right, well, I'll move to accept them as they are. Have a second? Second. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Chisholm.
Present. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Vice Chair West.
Yes.
Commissioner Steiner.
Yes.
Commissioner Grau.
Can I say yes because I wasn't at that seat?
You're more than welcome to abstain if you wish.
I'll abstain.
Okay. And Commissioner Freeman.
I watched it on video, so I'll say yes.
Okay. And Commissioner Steiner.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Motion passes.
All right, fantastic. Right, we'll move on to discussion action items. So firstly, welcome to our new commissioners. Pamela, welcome. Valerie, welcome. We're great to have a what is now constituting a full commission of 5 members. And so perhaps this would be a good time to let you introduce yourself. I know that happened at the council meeting on Tuesday also, but not everybody watches the council meetings, but everybody watches the Arts Commission meetings. So Valerie, perhaps you would like to go first, and don't remember to hit your button when you go.
Well, I am an Ojai studio artist, and I've also written several articles in Ojai magazine on featured art, public art, things happening around Ojai. And I have a very diverse background, going all the way back to the 80s in New York City, doing performance art and public art, and also taking that over and collaborating with artists in Europe. I'm a recipient of several prestigious awards, including the Ford Foundation, Municipal Arts Society of New York City, and Ojai Celebrates Chess, when I was on that side over there requesting a grant for celebrating chess for the month of March several years ago. Celebration of Beatrice Wood's birthday and her relationship with Marcel Duchamp. I've also sailed the world as a guest art lecturer on Crystal Cruises and have visited over 61 countries where I just scout out all the art and architecture and culture and music and as much as I can. So I feel I have a rich worldly exposure to bring to Ojai of magical moments that I would like to share. And the list goes on. I would recommend to read my resume. It's several pages long of what I've done, and I'm really looking forward to working with the commission here. I love projects that are big and include the entire community, that are educational, innovative, friendly to the environment, and a lot of fun. So, thank you.
Right, thanks very much. Welcome in. I have read your resume. I read it quite some time ago, as a matter of fact. And yes, the Arts Commission is a big project at the moment, so strap yourself in. Right, Pam?
Let's see. Hi, I'm Pamela Grau, and I too am an Ojai studio artist. I've just finished serving 3 years as the president of that organization and have been involved in many nonprofits in the art realm for the last 35 years. I've been a professional artist for 50 years and come with a whole arsenal of talents, experiences, and enthusiasm to bring to the city of Ojai. That's it for me.
Thanks, Pam. Well, I was expecting you to go longer, because I did see what you said at the council meeting as well. And I thought, oh, I'll give her the chance and she'll go as long as she possibly can tonight. I know what you bring to this commission, and I'm thrilled, and I know that the rest of us are thrilled that you're here as well. And it's not your first go around, so thanks for putting your faith in me and everybody else. While we're here, we may as well, because it's been such a long time, just Christine, if you'd like to say a couple of words about yourself, and then we'll go to Smitty, and then we'll crack on with the next part of the night.
Okay, thank you. I'm Christine Steiner. I'm an art lawyer. I have just been reappointed to the Arts Commission. I represent a number of different kinds of clients within the arts. I do a great deal of public art commissions, and I have been in what one would call the art world, I suppose, for quite some time. Formerly, I was in-house for the Getty, I was in-house for the Smithsonian, and I now represent a number of developers, museums, individuals, artists, galleries, etc.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Smitty?
Thank you, and welcome, new members. I'm Smitty. I've been in the Valley for 25 years, 30 years, and am a musician. It's my primary art, but I'm also a woodworker. I've worked with a lot of organizations. I really respect the purpose of the commission and the recognition that we work for the council, for the people. Everything that we do should be driven by our plan, and with the respect that ultimately it's our voters, our residents of the Valley who we serve. And I like taking creative ideas then, and in that light, kind of bringing them to life. So I'm looking forward to having a full commission and our strategic planning, which will be coming up soon. Thank you.
Thanks very much. The folks of the Arts Commission, just for anybody who's paying attention out there, will be to get into the community and try to create as many positive opportunities for the community within the arts, all of the arts, as humanly possible, to not be seen as a bureaucratic hurdle anymore for which people need to overcome. but to actually encourage people and reach out directly to them in order that we become a friend to them. Right, and that's that. I'm Nigel. I'm sure you all know me. If you don't, I don't know where you've been. Right, so we'll go to B. And this is a request for repairs of public art at Clough Vista. This has been an ongoing issue for a number of years now, I think. And it revolves primarily, as far as I'm concerned, on the Arts Commission, with the writing on the Chumash rock in the middle of Clough Vista and how that resides. Ray, if you'd like to come and have your well, it can be 10 minutes of fame now. I see you've gone the same direction with the hair that I went.
Hello, commissioners. Thanks for this opportunity. Clough Park has a special place in my heart. I know its history. I've been here for 23 years. I knew Tom Bostrom. The love he put into that park. And a few years ago, what's inspiring me to talk now is that it was 2 summers ago, I think, when I was on the board of the Green Coalition, we got a grant from the Arts Commission to do a native plant and arts course for kids there. It was a wonderful course. If you weren't aware of the outcome, it's on the Green Coalition YouTube channel. We documented the whole thing. But all the kids got watercolor kits, and Julie Tumamite Stensley and Lanny Coffer did herb walks in Clough Park. It was then that I saw the disrepair of the park itself. It's three-pronged. It's the landscaping itself, which I know Public Works and the city, it's their purview. So there were a lot of weeds. There's a lot of dead plants there. It was cleaned up pretty good because of fire clearance, and we did the course during summer. One of the signs is completely weathered, and you can't even read it at all. It's not even there. That was the sign that, I don't know, some of you may know, some of you may not, that Hope Frazier long ago did the design for the digital artwork. It seems that the file for that has gone missing. We're not sure who has it. I personally have called the Land Conservancy recently. They updated me on that. They're no longer responsible for the signs, the city art is. And then there's the rock, which is weathered. The wind and the rain has washed away some of the sandstone. I believe it's sandstone. You can still read it. I think it definitely needs repair. I don't think it needs to be re-engraved, but I think going in with some dye and then some sealant or something, you'll be able to read it again. The etching is still there, but I went yesterday, and it's not readable from 5 feet away. So I'm just encouraging you to move forward on whatever that looks like. I know there's some conversation on, does it come out of Public Arts Fund or not to repair that rock? Is it included that because it wasn't a public arts grant? It seems there's some gray area because there's some precedent. There's a precedent set on another project that wasn't public art but needed repair as well or something. I don't know all the details. So I'm just wanting you mostly to see the value of Clough Park, the value in the community. More people go there than people think. I ride my bike a lot, and I often see people in Clough Park. And it's a really great resource, and it's a beautiful area. So I just encourage you to take a deep dive into the subject and try to get things, whether it's through the commission or advising the city, to go into city funds just to freshen the place up, and it needs some repair there.
Thanks, Ray. Does anybody have any? Oh, we can't have questions. Can we have questions to Ray?
Can ask clarifying questions.
Does anybody have any observations, comments, clarifying questions for Ray? Christine, you first.
Not for Ray, but I do in general. Should I wait?
Well, let's deal with Ray first. Do you have something, Smitty, to ask Ray?
I wondered if the inscription was available, published somewhere, if we're going to try to draw some public attention to this, or
What do you mean?
do you have to go to the rock to read the inscription?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's online anywhere. I mean, I imagine somewhere there's an original photograph of when it first was done. I would assume that would be in the city's archive. The Land Conservancy, who I spoke to today, their field director called me, Brandon was his name, to inform me that they met with the city last year, and it's not in their purview anymore to fix the signs. I know that originally that rock used a rubber template to do the etching in the words, and no one knows where that is, and you can't really use that anymore and go over the same words. So I'm hoping the city might have, that inscription. You can read it well enough. I mean, if you go over there and come close, you can read it.
Luis, you
Yeah.
indicated that we do have that.
Correct. The city does have a photo of that rock. The photo is of its current condition and disrepair, but you can read the text.
Right on. I suspect that Smitty and I may do a video about it at some point and stick it up on Channel 10. So we can memorialise it and ourselves for the rest of the lifetime on the commission anyway. Any other questions for Pam?
Luis, do you know if the city has a copy of the digital art that was printed for the sign that's in disrepair?
Not to my knowledge, but we can go ahead and take a look.
Ray, thanks very much.
Before, sorry,
Oh.
may I change my mind about not having a question for Ray?
Of course you may.
So Ray, I just wanted to say I love Clough Vista Park. I think it's great, and I want to thank you for coming forward in its support.
Right. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anytime Ray opens his mouth about art in this town, we should be listening. He's always got this town's best interests in mind, so thanks very much. As it turns out, I'm really familiar with what goes on at Clough Vista Park, not least of which because I spent plenty of time with Christine Golden on this, but also a few years ago when I first came onto the Arts Commission, there was a question about how we get those signs fixed initially. The rock wasn't such a problem at that point. So this is probably 2 or 3 years ago now. And it was a nightmare to try and track down. So many calls to Luis and the city and Public Works and the Land Conservancy. And in the end, nobody wanted to do it. That was the bottom line, and nobody cared to do it. So it just kind of sat there for quite a long time. For a number of reasons, for which I will pass over to Ms. Steiner now to explain what the issue is. It isn't, as it turns out, anything that the Arts Commission can do something directly for, but we have possibly found a solution which we can discuss right now. Commissioner Steiner.
Thank you. So this issue had come up in the Public Art Committee in the past, and for better or for worse, both the rock and also the digital signage are not art qua art. They're not public art. They may be beautiful objects. They may, of course, have inherent value, as many things do that are not public art. And so because this wasn't public art commissioned with public art funds under the ordinance, it is likely the responsibility of Public Works or Recreation or someone else, but not of the Arts Commission. And so for that reason, it sort of never left the Public Art Committee to come back to this commission as a whole.
Right, so while everybody thinks it's our responsibility, in fact it just isn't. And we get it in the neck for it, but there's nothing we can do about it until now. Public Works don't seem to want to take responsibility. The city are just confused over it, I think, and they've got far more bigger fish to fry in an election year than the Chumash Rock. So, given that we all love Clough Vista Park, and by the way, that is the best place in town to see the Ojai pink moment. If you've ever done that, if you haven't, when we get the pink moment, just run as quickly as you can to Clough Vista. It's magnificent there. So as it turns out, COVID has done us a favour here, because in our budget we weren't able to use all of our budget. And there's, what is the exact figure, 6,800 and something odd dollars left in our budget from last year?
I think it may be a little bit closer to 7,000. The exact figure is $7,265.
Oh, fantastic. So as it turns out, that is about the figure that has been estimated by the city that it will take to repair the rock and make it weather resistant, and the posters. I'm not incorrect in saying that, am I?
Just for clarity, that information was brought forward by a former commissioner, but that is correct. It's
So-
just right around that.
Right, so we're somewhere in that figure.
Right.
We have a number of opportunities of what we can do with that money. But the simple fact of the matter is the city and public works want us to take responsibility for it, regardless of whether we are or not. So it seems to me that we can help the city along and help Clough Vista Park, and we can get this project done by simply not spending that money and sending it back to the city. We can do that with a strong recommendation, if our commission agrees, that they use those funds for the repair of the Tune Mash Rock and for the production of new artwork. Can't do anything about the cleanup of the park itself. That is definitely a public works issue. But we can send a strong recommendation to use those funds for that purpose. We cannot guarantee that they will use the funds for that purpose, but they will certainly have the opportunity to do that. And when we send the money back, and I'm glad Susan's here, then we will send that recommendation to council. Council can then discuss it, and then they can choose to push it forward to Public Works and utilize the money in that way or not. So I would feel pretty confident that that $7,200 and whatever dollars would be used for the purpose of restoring the rock and the posters, if not in whole, at least the majority of it, because we don't know exactly what's going on there. So with that said, we'll open it up for discussion. Commissioner Grau.
Okay, I'm very frugal, and I went and looked at the park and looked at the rock, and I'm questioning where those numbers came from, because I just would be curious how they got that quote and where it came from.
Well, let's pass that one over to the city.
So I can speak partially to that, and that's in regards to the signs. We had reached out to the original vendor that created the signs. We got a quote to do them front and back in case they get weathered in the future. We have an option to go ahead and flip them around. And if memory serves me right, that quote was right around $2,500 or so for those signs. And then the rest, again, if memory serves me right, it was a former commissioner who brought the idea forward and possibly hosting some sort of competition for the art. Again, because the current art that's on the signs cannot be located. It was to go ahead and reproduce that art, and it would be a stipend for that artist.
So we don't know exactly, but I do know that that figure is about correct, because it's not just regular paper. It's proper paper that has to be utilized because of the weather in here. Yeah, whatever it's called, you would know much better than I. Ray, do you happen to have a figure that is in your mind for that artwork?
Well, I know printing costs on a nice aluminum sign, one side full color, that size is probably around $50.
Yeah, okay.
So an aluminum sign that's weatherproof, it seems like a high figure to me. I have an idea on where to possibly find the original digital file.
I suspect I know where they are as well, but whether we can get them or not is a different question altogether.
In terms of the rock, I don't see why that would be that expensive unless you're gonna sandblast it and start from scratch, but I would think a brush and some good dye and weatherproofing,
Yeah.
a few $100.
I suspect that the city wants to do it once and do it properly and never have to think about it again. Would I be accurate in that, Luis, Robin?
I would agree in regards to doing it correctly. One of the things that, if this were to be passed on to the city, we definitely would want to go ahead and work on hand in hand with the commission, make sure that, it's not only up to the city standards, but also up to the commission standards.
Yeah, and I think by doing this, we then clearly state that this is now a city responsibility and a public arts responsibility, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. Robin?
Yes, and we did talk with the city manager about this when the agenda went out, and he is fully supportive of Public Works making the necessary repairs to Clef Vista Park. So,
Right,
the
thanks.
city is behind it.
Valerie?
I have a question. With the $6,000, where was the money not used in the Arts Commission budget?
Louis can speak to that, I think, but was it mentorships and something else?
So it's an array of different categories. So for the remaining budget, and we'll get into this more in specific into the next item, but $1,000 was coming from art awards, and then there was $465 from copier rental. There's $5,000 from mentorship, $300 from the municipal collection, and then $500 from the public art committee.
And when does that money have to be spent?
By the end of the fiscal cycle, which is at the end of this month.
Oh, the end of this month.
Mhm.
Is there any way to allocate and roll over the money for art education?
So any unspent money at the end of the fiscal year, if it's not used, then it's lost.
So the answer is no. It's we either spend it or we lose it. That's it. Now, we can choose how we spend it. We don't have to spend it on this.
Yes, my thing is I think this came up once before where funds for art education was going to be designated to Public Works for rocks and plants. And what the community did is come together and raise the money for rocks and plants. And so I'm wondering, I don't know if there's a way to quickly spend the money at the end of the month for the community and do a fundraiser, have the community come together as a fundraiser for the park.
Anything is possible. Is Robin? Is there anybody else? Any other comments? Commissioner Steiner?
I do. I just have a comment about the rock itself. So if the rock were public art, which it is not, it would have to be treated by a professional conservator because it's public art maintenance. However, because it's not public art, it can be handled in the way we've been discussing, that as Ray said, a stencil can be done, or it can be covered over, or it can be treated in a way that if it were public art, it would have to be done much more carefully and much more professionally. Simply a nuance to explain the freedom we have here for dealing with this piece.
Always nice to have a public art lawyer on the commission, isn't it, Ray? Approach, Ray.
For the sake of the viewing audience, so they can hear me, because they probably didn't hear me before. But as I've been hearing the discussion, I think because of the nature of that particular rock and the material that rock is, that if it's etched and dyed, the city is going to have to do continual maintenance. Rocks weather, and with the wind and the rain, it's going to weather. So maybe a more permanent solution is take the inscription and have a metal plaque engraved or something, and having that adhered to the rock would have it be more in perpetuity than having to continue to maintenance it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they want to do it once. That's it. I would like, if we do choose to send these funds back to the city simply by not spending them, and we'll have a vote on that in a minute, I would like to have some recommendation also, not that they just use the money for that, but they come back to us with what their vision is to fix it and how they're going to do it. I don't know whether they would do that or whether that's even required of them to do that. Can we, because all we're doing is making a recommendation to use the funds anyway. So we would just have to trust that they would do it appropriately. But we live in a small town, don't we? So conversations happen all the time. Smitty?
Is there a motion on this?
Not just yet. We're still in discussion. Anybody else have any comments on this?
Have you all read the inscription? Do you know what the inscription is? Sorry.
Well, I got to get a lot tighter on running these meetings, haven't I? I've read it. I'm sure everybody's been up there and read it. But it is difficult to read, quite frankly. It is. It needs to be fixed. That's a simple matter. So, if we are done with the discussion, I will make a motion to send that money back to the city to then send it back to Public Works or to assign it to Public Works with a strong recommendation from this commission that they use it for the repair of both the Chumash Rock, the permanent repair of the Chumash Rock, and also double-sided posters. And I think there are 7. Are there 7 of those there?
I believe there's 6, but
6?
there could be 7.
Maybe we call it signage rather than posters.
Signage, sure. Louise will fix my language. I'm a foreigner, sorry. It's a cultural issue. To send it back in that manner for them to use the funds. So
I second.
you can't have a comment now. She seconded it. Or can she?
Yeah.
She can? All right, off you go.
I just was wondering if you could add to that a timeline in which it's fixed. For example, they could fix it 10 years from now. We're not giving them any guidelines as to how quickly that should be done.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. We can certainly put that in the strong recommendation, but we have to understand that the council have to also send that forward as well. We're on a wing and a prayer with this. But again, it's a small city, and Susan knows I'll be standing at that lectern if they don't do it.
I have another quick question. I'm sorry, I'm new here. Is it possible that we could take those funds and hire people to
No.
do that rock? Okay.
No, this is the problem. It's not anything for us to deal with directly. Smitty?
Would it be faster just to, I mean, the normal process, the money would be returned anyways, right, in 2 weeks?
Yeah, the money's going back.
Right. So there's no, will this require like approval from the council on?
Yeah,
Because if we just let it
the
go back, it
council will
goes
have
back.
to reassign the funds that we send back. If the motion is to send the funds back with a strong recommendation from the Arts Commission that the Chumash Rock is to be permanently repaired along with the signage
Timely.
in a timely manner, and we could put that as the end of the next fiscal year, perhaps, if that's should give them plenty of time. Does that satisfy you, Commissioner Grau?
I'm going along with all of you.
All right. So there's a motion there. We've got a second with Smitty. Oh, sorry, a second with Commissioner Steiner. So let's have a vote.
Commissioner Freeman? Yes. Chair Chisholm?
Yes.
Vice Chair West?
Yes.
Commissioner Steiner?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks very much. And this is an unusual situation because COVID was our friend in this particular case. Generally not. So that's done. The funds will be going back to City Council, SUSA, with a strong recommendation that they be used by Public Works for the renovation of those items in Cloughester. Fantastic. Right. So you're on record as that now as well, by the way. All right. So we're on to 5C now, which is the budget allocations for 22-23, and that is myself, but we do have another comment from Mr. Maynard. So if you would like to approach and be recognized.
Wayne Maynard, resident Ojai on Gridley Road. In looking at your budget allocation, I noticed that there's money being allocated, I think, for mentoring, but there is none for public education. And to me, that's a concern. And I was thinking perhaps rather than, to me, mentoring is a subset of public education. And so that perhaps you could just remove the mentoring line and move the money up to education, public education, and then you have the authority to allocate the funds as you feel appropriate in public education, which could include mentoring or any other programs that may be that come up that would fit in that category. That's just my recommendation for you to consider.
All right, thanks very much. I think it's not a bad idea, really. It's we've not really had any mentorships over the last couple of years because of COVID. So we're just restarting the engine pretty much now. So we can name these things anything we want. And if we want to go with a broader brush, that may help the community more than something that's a little bit slimmer. I do know that in the past the mentorship money was used primarily from local artists to help in various different areas. And I think, Kim, you had some of those mentorships, didn't you? Didn't you have some kids who were in mentor programs? No. But I know, like Tim Arlon, for example, he was mentoring a few kids and this, that, and the other. I don't know, frankly, if public education would include mentorships or not. We have arts education on there, so I don't know if that would cover public education or not. But perhaps, Wayne, I could ask you to just come back up to the lectern for a minute and maybe define public education a little bit more.
Actually, the category I was looking at was arts education, is what I was actually, it's number 2 on, I think is this the form you're looking at?
Okay. So your question was just simply, why isn't there any money there?
Yeah, there's no money there, and to me it seems like if you move the mentorship, the $5,000 that you're proposing in mentorship, just move it up to arts education, which I believe mentorship is a subset of arts education.
Thanks. So, Luis, the budget last year was a bit funky because of COVID. Previously, I don't know if you've got it in your computer there, or on what was assigned to arts education.
So in fiscal year 2020, 2021, there was 0, and this was allocated by the commission. The commission determined where to go ahead and place the funds. Fiscal year 21, 22 is 0 as before. Prior years to that, I don't have right in front of me at this very moment, but I can see if I can dig it up.
Yeah, see if you can dig it up and we can find out. I mean, it seems to me that I recall that there was funds in there, but because the schools were closed, because I think those funds were used primarily in the local schools, then there was actually nowhere to use it, and I think that's why it ended up at 0. If I'm not correct.
You don't mind?
I don't.
Okay. I don't see arts education just limited to schools and kids. If you want to put on some type of a clinic or a demonstration, or bring somebody in to do that and invite the public, all that kind of stuff in my opinion.
To help.
Education.
Yeah, sure. I think COVID hit the same thing, though. There was no meetings, there was no anything going on. So I think that's what actually happened with that. Commissioner Freeman.
My light's on. I actually volunteered during COVID, and I volunteered in Libby Park, open to the public with social distancing, and it was fabulous because it got the kids away from the computer, and parents came with their children, and everyone sat apart, and I just taught the very basics of drawing and how to sketch and perspective. And it was so beautiful, and the parents felt so blessed to be able to get their kids away from the computer and be out in the sunshine. So there is a lot that we can do just out, not in the walls of a school.
Oh yeah, I don't think anybody's questioning that, and of course we're in a different space now as well. So, but I think probably what I'm addressing is that it wasn't always 0. There was some there, and I'm sure Luis will.
That is correct. So I just, and I apologize, I don't have the directly 2019, 2020, but I was able to go ahead and pull up 17 and 18, and it looks like $9,600 was allocated that year for arts education.
96?
Mm-hmm.
So our budget was much bigger back then. Our budget has shrunk significantly over the last number of years. Commissioner Steiner.
Thank you. So in the past, what have we used art education for, or arts education for?
That's
Is there a history, or do we allocate it once things come to us?
That's a great question. I don't have that answer right offhand. I'd have to go ahead and do a little bit of research, but what I'm happy to go ahead and do, Robin and myself, will be happy to go ahead and do a little bit of research and send that information to the commissioners afterwards.
All right, thanks very much. Commissioner West, weren't you the chair of that commission?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that a lot of this will, with the new full commission now and a plan to do a strategic planning, 5-year plan, which we're required to by the city, and in that process, we'll come up with what is our purpose and our things that we do. In the past, it was very important. These mentorships were considered part of sort of vocational education to honor both artists and young young and older kids to job shadow and see some respect for the vocation of artists. And very well that could fall under education. So, but with our new structuring and recreating of the committee structure and our strategic planning thing, I think it'll come into a lot better focus, and we'll be able to use our 5-year plan as a planning. And I'll be strongly advocating for education, both in terms of vocational education and in terms of supporting any arts activities in all our schools in the Valley.
Right, so, Luis, are we required to assign these funds at this meeting?
It's strongly recommended, as the final budget is set to be adopted on the 28th of this month.
By the council?
That is
But
correct.
that's only a lump sum that comes to us.
That is correct.
They probably aren't too interested in where we decide to divvy it up after that point.
That is correct. However, again, to be able to go ahead and submit and have a final budget, again, it is strongly recommended. But if the commission wishes not to go ahead and make these allocations this evening, it doesn't necessarily need to.
It just seems to me that we could do with learning a little bit more about it before we start putting things in pots, and having to be stuck with that for the rest of the year, because we're not allowed to move it from pot to pot, are we? Right, so that's it. So it seems to me that that Wayne's point is well taken, and that nobody sitting here currently really knows what those funds were used for previously in arts education. We can certainly find out, but we can't find out this moment. The only thing that it seems to me at this point we should probably just push it to the next meeting, where we can divide it up when we've got a little bit more knowledge about what's going on. That would make sense to me. Valerie? All right, sorry.
Well, I don't know if we can move it to the next meeting. Don't we have to conclude it by?
So that's the total amount. I think we can just give a lump sum amount, which would be the same as last year, a request for the same as last year.
So that really wasn't my question. That was just an aside. I wanted to follow up on what Smitty said in terms of our strategic plan and our 5-year plan guiding us for the next at least 2 years. And I think that will, and I agree with Smitty, help the budget fall in place. The one aspect where I'm uncomfortable, and I see that the budget for the upcoming year pretty much tracks last year, and that makes a great deal of sense in most respects, but for the public relations area, where last year it had been 1,000 and the proposal is 0. And if I have heard you correctly, Mr. Chair, and I agree fully, that part of our job here is to reach out to the community in ways we haven't in the past, to engage the community, to be broader, to bring everyone under this big happy tent of the arts in Ojai. And in order to do that, I think we're going to need more than 0 in the public relations budget.
Yeah, I don't think there is a recommendation for that. I think that's just what was left over at the end of the year. So it was the 2021 budget was $1,000, and what was left, if I'm reading it correctly, Luis, there was nothing left in the pot at the end of the year, but there's no recommendation for what it should be this coming year.
That is correct.
That's accurate. Yeah.
As long as we've got a lot in that pot.
Every pot needs a lot.
We're going to do.
Oh, I'm a poet. Commissioner Grau. Commissioner Freeman.
So the $1,000, it's left, you're saying it's left in the pot and it's going to roll over? Is that
No,
what
there
you're
is
saying?
nothing left in the pot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll need to allocate funds for public relations. And my concern with just doing this lump sum thing, I think that it may, if I may be wrong, Luis, but correct me. Last year also, there was the leftover money from mentorship that wasn't used. And did that also go back to the city? And is that why the price, the amount is that why the price that they're allocating is going down, because we're not using the funds? And so they're just giving us less? That-
No, not necessarily. So the prior years, the city has had financial challenges due to the COVID impact.
Okay,
And so with that, that comes a little bit lower numbers. The city is very supportive of the commission and has always tried to fund the commission as much as possible. But again, because of the financial impact due to COVID, there was limited funds to go ahead and do. And to your initial question, any unspent funds, they do get returned back to the general fund there. So just as clarity, just for this sheet that that the commission is looking at, so we are looking at the budget for 2020, 2021, and then the blank 2022, 2023, that's what the commission can go ahead and decide to allocate on. The notes section, where it has the balances, that is the remaining balance between 21, 22. Now the commission just voted to go ahead and take those $7,200, give them back or send them back to the city for the repair of the rock and the signs over at Clef Vista Park. That's what just voted
so
on.
it's a fair question you ask, and it's actually one that I asked a few months ago when this cropped up, when that $7,200 was available to us to what to do. Because I also was concerned that if we didn't spend the funds, our funds would go down by an equivalent amount.
right.
It doesn't appear to be the case. And it's just been a natural progression downhill over the last number of years with how much the city can afford to fund this commission. That's correct, Luis? Yeah.
And-
Commissioner Graham.
Okay. I agree with Wayne that mentorships are great, but art education has a broader field which mentorships could fall within. And to change the allocation for mentorships and move it back into arts education, we could still use all that money for mentorships, but it also gives us the flexibility to possibly fund other art education elements.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I don't think you'll find anybody that disagrees with you
Okay.
here. We can make as many buckets or as few buckets and combine buckets and do whatever we want with that budget. It seems to me at this point, as much as Luis and Robin are going to hate it, that I don't think we're in a position to be able to put any money in any bucket at this point, especially because I'm going to suggest two new buckets right now. One would be it seems to me that there's an ongoing issue with repair of public art in this town. And it occurs to me that when we have the 2% for the arts, wherever that may come from, if we choose to accept the funds instead of having the project completed by whomever, then it wouldn't be a bad idea to take maybe 10% of those funds and put them into an escrow account for if public art needed to be repaired. And we had questions, for example, like Clough Vista or various other things, or perhaps as a recalcitrant owner of some public art who didn't want to fix it, and that certainly happens because the penalties of not fixing your public art that you're required to are shockingly low. So I'm interested in opening up another bucket or suggesting to council that we should be moving maybe 10% of those funds into a different environment for safekeeping in case we have situations whereby the public art is not being repaired. And we do have a couple of those situations right now, I believe.
But Nigel, wouldn't that simply be segregated under the Public Art Fund rather than being a budget sort of question? It would still be within that large Public Art
Well,
Fund
let's find out.
bucket. Let's ask Louise.
What does City say?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
If I understood Nigel correctly, the suggestion was to take certain amounts of the public art money and use it for maintenance. And I was saying, but I think that would be within the Public Art Fund rather than a budget-related matter.
That is correct, yeah.
So the problem is if those funds aren't spent within that year, then it goes back to City.
Not the Public Art Fund, that just
Not the Public Art
continues.
Fund.
That
No, not
continues.
the Public Art
That
Fund.
Okay,
But
so we
continues
could
to
just
grow.
simply create another account
Yeah.
to move 10% of the funds into that. What do we all think of that concept of having a separate fund specifically to fixed public art that is not being fixed or taken care of properly. Vice Chair West.
Already, it's by definition, or the ownership and the responsibility is with the city and not with the Arts Commission. You know, it may be possible to, because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it's possible to set up another account over at the city. Maybe it isn't in the public art fund.
Well, maintenance is, under the ordinance, maintenance is the responsibility of the owner, unless they have transferred the work to the city. But the responsibility for that still is reposited with us pursuant to the Public Art Fund. Correct me if I'm wrong, Luis, but I believe that would be correct.
You're correct.
And so, I believe that maintenance is probably our largest responsibility. Display and maintenance really stand on equal footing, and so we have an obligation to maintain work, and the idea of segregating segregating funds for that ongoing maintenance is absolutely key.
But we need some careful language where what is the city's responsibility and what would be the maintenance arm of the Public Art Fund's responsibility. I think I mentioned this once, you know, governments pass lotteries for education, but then they gut their education bill. I don't want to see the maintenance of our public art that the city's currently doing all of a sudden kicked back to the Public Art Commission.
Is the city doing public art maintenance? I don't think so.
Yeah, right, like,
I think it all comes under us. So
That is
for
correct.
example,
Yeah, so
last-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, my experience is limited, but last year we conserved and reframed a work within the city collection. That came out of
Our
our
money.
budget, not out of the city. So I think we're always within, whatever is public art qua public art is within that fund, and we are responsible. That's why.
like painting the skate wheel?
Yeah,
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that isn't the city, okay.
only the Rock is the city now.
Yeah, so the wheel's an interesting one, as a matter of fact, because you've been battling with that for quite a while. So I'll say it on two. So the owner was going to fix that, and we
Yeah,
can't get a
and-
hold of the owner. So if you're around somewhere, then get in touch with Pamela Grau.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And
So the thought is just to cut out, pick a figure. 10% just seems reasonable to me. That was one bucket. That was one thought. Did you have a comment or just?
Oh, my comment was in the permissible expenditures that are in the ordinance ending in 204, that expenditures for maintenance and repair of artwork. So it falls into that.
I think it may allow us to actually budget a little bit better. I mean, there could be a situation, certainly, where the commission has put a rather large sum of money aside to do projects that didn't come to fruition. But if that money had been spent and more, then there wouldn't have been any money left for the repair of some public art in this town. So perhaps it would allow us to use our money a little bit more wisely. So that's just the thought. We can have a talk about that. The other one would be to create a bucket for a retreat for the commissioners to formulate a 5-year plan, which is now 3 years behind schedule. So perhaps Commissioner West could speak to that.
Oh, it just, at the last committee meeting, I was tasked with searching out some facilitators for doing a 5-year plan that we owe the city. We're far behind in doing that. And I think a lot of what comes up in our meetings is because we don't have a nice framework to guide us both in our budgeting and our management and our allocation. And I think that's where we, decide, do we have responsibilities to education or mentorship or to, besides what about our Public Art Commission? I think So to do this will probably be a couple day a retreat. It makes it sound like a ski trip. I mean, just a meeting, probably on a weekend, to with a professional facilitator to interview the commission, interview the interested parties and concerned parties in the city, on the city side, and also in the community, and get on with our plan, so we have a little better headlights when we look through our windshield.
Yeah, I think this was a topic of conversation over the last year at least with the previous commission and their members. It didn't happen for whatever reason. One of the reasons was the funding of it. Historically, the 5-year plan has had short shrift, which I think has perhaps negatively impacted the work of the commission in the community and the focus of this commission. And I know that previous commission members were supportive of having this type of, what do I want to call it, retreat? Workshop, whatever it is, we all know. Strategic planning session, so that we can all come together instead of fighting over it with a professional facilitator. And so I'd ask Smitty to go and seek out certain people, and he has. And so that would need to be paid for. And so simply we'd like to cut out some funds from the budget for that as well. I don't know if anybody has a particular issue with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ojai is an amazing destination, and we have amazing places here. So I personally would like to meet in Ojai.
Oh, it's certainly be in Ojai. Probably be
Okay.
in this room.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Unless you want to do it at the Ojai Valley Inn, in which case we're going to need all of the funds to be assigned to that. Commissioner Steiner.
I'm fully supportive of this. I think it's a great idea. We are far behind on our 5-year plan, and we do need a strategic plan to guide us going forward. So I would certainly support this.
We absolutely do. We've all got our ideas and all of our thoughts, but we absolutely need to know in which direction we're going in order that we can pull in the same direction. And I would look forward to it. So
I'm just a little behind as what happened here with the budget process. So I've spoken to one, and I have 2 other names, and I want to meet with the 3 of them and get some proposals, both in terms of like what would their fee be, or what would the whole cost of it, with coffee and everything be. So I'm not prepared at this point to.
But you will be by the next meeting.
But I will be by the next meeting.
We'll have a report on that then.
Right, but I don't know
Vice
if
Chair
you
West.
need to pencil something in
Yeah.
there.
So at this point, I don't think we have enough information to divvy up these funds, and I would suggest, unless anybody thinks anything different, that we should just beg Louise and Robin to get on their hands and knees to the council and give us the amount of money we're asking for, and trust us in the same way that we're trusting them with the $7,265 to do the right thing with it. I don't think there's going to be an issue, quite frankly. It's not like we're going to spend $30,000 on coffee and champagne on a workshop. Although...
Can we ask our city council liaison whether that's likely that we can be so general?
And I want to ask a question, if I may. Also,
You may.
Before you leave the budget. Exactly did you want to ask?
Whether in fact we can be so general as is being suggested, rather than categorize our budget items to put it together in one overall.
So you don't have like what the museum has, every item
Yeah,
lined up.
I'm guessing that the
I
council
think-
doesn't go through it line by line. They
No,
look at it.
I would hope that under the circumstances that you can do, as you propose, you could make a statement, What do you think, Louise?
So again, just going back to my initial recommendation, it would be good to go ahead and allocate. However, moving, for the 28th, the commission will be allotted this, and then afterwards we'll go ahead and allocate the funds, and we'll take an item to to council to say this is how the funds are going to be divvied up.
Yeah, I really don't see an issue
We haven't met
with that.
for
Yeah.
This is I've been the liaison the whole quarter. I think this is my only meeting, am I correct?
But you're doing great.
Yeah, so I think that you can justify that.
Yep.
But my question may reveal my ignorance, but why is it that the money that you didn't spend doesn't roll over?
It goes back into the general fund. It's the same thing, just for the city, like the city's budget.
There's no exceptions.
Correct.
And who made up that rule? The government?
You are the
I
government.
I don't have that answer exactly who made up that rule.
But I mean,
yeah.
if we made up
Yeah.
that rule, can't we amend the rule? So
I think
that
the
it's
question probably is it a state rule? Is it, or is
yeah.
it a county rule, or is it
Yeah.
a city rule?
Yeah, it's not. I don't believe it's a city rule. I believe it's a federal rule, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse my ignorance. I could look into it, but
that's
yeah,
why
yeah,
it would
but
be interesting to know.
yeah, but I don't believe it's a federal rule
Okay,
or a city rule. Excuse
I've
me.
seen these type of things before
yeah.
at schools down in Port Wainimi,
Mhm.
when literally on the last day they're running around, going to Office Depot, buying pens and pencils and papers, chairs, anything they can think of to spend the money. And it's a bit embarrassing, really.
Yeah.
But I can see the reason and the rationale for it. I think you can cut this one either way. But ideally, I would like it to roll over. However, the council's just going to give us the same amount of money less in our budget. So if we had $7,000 running over, instead of asking for 32, you just give us 25. That's what would happen in reality, I think. So
But we're not going to do that.
yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
not going to do that because it doesn't roll over anyway.
Yeah.
So the motion. Anything else, Susan, to add?
No, but I keep thinking about this rollover thing. If you had there's no such thing as an emergency category, because with public art, there could be vandalism, anything can happen at any time to your public art where you may need a fund, an emergency fund.
Well, Susan, we do have a public art fund, and it does have money in it
Thank you.
for these purposes, which is separate and distinct from the budget itself. Now, we weren't able to take that 7,200 and put it into that fund. We had to turn it back, and happily it got turned back for what we trust to be a very good purpose. So it's as if we had spent it, but we're now hewing to our obligations by having the right authority responsible for it. But that's a different sort of question, what we would do in the instance of vandalism or other maintenance. And that goes to Nigel's point about setting aside 10% for those purposes.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we didn't have to allocate the money Tuesday night. I was afraid we had to do it Tuesday night, But, so now there's time for me to investigate and advocate. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thank you for your work on the council too, Susan. And so I would propose a motion that we ask for was it 32,300, Luis? That we request $32,300 for the functioning of the Ojai Arts Commission for the fiscal year 22-23, with leave to allocate it within the following month, so that we can educate ourselves on exactly where we would like to spend it. And Wayne, obviously, if you want to talk to me at some point over the course of the next month with your ideas, I'm more than happy to listen to you. You can get my information from
I
City.
second the motion.
I can give that. So that's the motion. Smitty seconded it.
With that, we'll
Let's
go ahead and do a
find
roll
out who
call.
says yes.
Chair Chisholm,
Yes.
Commissioner Steiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
Vice Chair West,
Yes.
Commissioner Grau.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, there we go. Susie, you're up at the plate again. That's twice tonight. No, once for the Rock and once for Clough Vista and once for the budget. So you're going to be our saviour. It is unusual times simply because we haven't had a meeting in so
We haven't
long.
had a quorum.
Yeah.
Right,
that
we
was the
haven't even been able to
Yeah.
have to
Right. So we're going to shoot on to D, which is the changes to the commission structure and the committee structure. Generally speaking, I think it's been true that the Commission has been wrought with challenges over the last 18 months or so. I can't say that if you walk down the street and ask 10 people if they knew there was an art commission, they would, 9 of them would say, what? And if you asked who was on it, probably all 10 of them would say, we have no idea. And I think part of that reason is because the Commission has gotten incredibly divorced from our town and our artists of all stripes in this town. The Commission, however, hasn't been divorced from making committees up. There were 11 of them. 11. We're only required to have 2, Public Art and Kappa. So I think this was just something that got away from people over time, and it just turned into this massive elephant that nobody could control, and then the more people came on. The Commission's had a lot of turnover over the last number of years. We're hoping to halt that over the next 4 years at least. And it was easier to form a committee than it was to actually discuss it in meetings. At that time, with 7 people, the committees could have 3 members on it. Committees now can only have 2 Commission members on it, because otherwise we break the Brown Act with 3, because 3 is the majority of the Commission. So, with that being said, over the last 2 years of all the committees that I've been on and shuffled around, in fact, I was put on 3 different committees in one day by telephone call last year. And my answer was always, sure, I don't mind. Whatever you want me to do, that's fine too. But I think it's true for me to say that there have actually been no committee meetings short of Public Art and Kappa over the last 2.5 years that I can recall. I was the chair of the awards committee. We didn't have one meeting. There was various other committees that had no meetings either, because it was absolutely true that everybody's busy, and the person who was the chair of that committee just actually made the decisions and brought their recommendations to the Commission anyway. With 5, it's a whole lot easier to talk about things and to deal with things than it is with 7. The committees have created dissension. They've created bullying, and I don't use that word lightly. That happened. They've created divisions where there didn't need to be any. They've created they've allowed power to reside in single individuals more than it should. And in fact, they've just been flat useless. It's my belief that if we are to return this Commission back to the community, which is where it should reside, and be a force for good, we need to be a whole lot more efficient in what we're doing. And my suggestion, my recommendation, and as it does come under the chair's purview anyway, is to do away with all of the committees apart from the ones that we are required to have, which is Public Art and Kappa. Each commissioner would be given a zone of responsibility, which I would decide, and they would have free rein within that area to focus on inculcating themselves into the community as deeply as possible, bring in members of that community, of that specific area, into the Arts Commission so that we can talk to them, find out what they need, and find out how we can help them do the best job that they can do.
Could you define Kappa for the audience?
The audience, the sitting audience.
Absolutely. So Kappa is the Committee to Approve Public Art.
So that's a committee that is made up of 5 people now. That would be 2 people of the Arts Commission, 2 members of the public, and 1 member of the Planning Commission, if I'm not mistaken. We'll talk about that in a moment. So that kicks in when somebody has gone over the threshold, and we have to judge as to whether their public art is appropriate and is something that we accept. So, Luis, as I understand it, the past practice, historically, is that the chair decides on committee assignments. He decides, well, I say he, I apologize. They decide on committee assignments. They decide on what committees exist and which ones don't. And the past practice, for as long as I've been on this committee, and I believe that you have looked, that you've found no evidence whatsoever to suggest that there are any regulations in play that would require anything other than a vote to create an ad hoc committee, for example, that it is in the chair's purview. Can you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. So in the so you are correct. The chair of the Arts Commission traditionally is tasked with assigning, doing the committee assignments. As far as the actual committees themselves, I don't have the information right offhand of how each committee was created, but if the chair wishes, it can go ahead and make the recommendation to disperse the commissions. Now, if the commission wishes to discuss, they're more than welcome to go ahead and do that as well.
Yeah, we'll absolutely have a conversation about this. Anybody like to kick in? Commissioner Steiner.
May I? Thank you. 11 committees was absurd. I was on 3 committees. I was placed on those committees by the chair. I mean, I certainly did my work, but it was more committees than were needed. The idea of disbanding the multiple committees and starting again, I think makes a great deal of sense. The question I would have, I mean, I think we should address now only the 2 that are required, create those, and then defer to the chair in terms of what happens next in terms of assignments of responsibility. And it may well be that our retreat/strategic planning will help in that process. But certainly at the outset, I agree with you entirely. Let's disband them, assign areas of responsibility, and let's move forward. Especially, as Sousa points out, we haven't even met, so of course the world doesn't know what we're doing. We don't even know what we're doing, and so I look forward to getting going.
Yes. My suspicion and my experience on the commission has been that whenever a job under previous leadership, the style, whenever there was a job to be done or some task that needed done that was in line with whatever the objectives were, a committee was formed, and then they just kind of held over and held over and held over, and then it became more important, these committees, than what's actually getting done. So I think with the sort of the power and the agility of the Arts Commission seems to be focused on the chair, and the chair is the one that we need to support. And some chairs may choose some years to have a bunch of committees and do it that way, and some chairs want to be more task-oriented, and so I support this. One, it makes sense to me, but I think I want to support our chair to be able to move forward.
Now it's on. I apologize. Flesh out the thought process. Commissioners would not just be set free to do what they want. Whatever the area of responsibility would be for a commissioner, I would meet with them. We'd work out a plan, how we move forward. We'd work out goals, specific goals, and a time frame for that. And then I would liaise with them directly on a regular basis. What we're trying to do is be more streamlined and more efficient. The reports would still be valid. You would still need to come back with reports and recommendations to the Commission. at which time we would discuss them. What you wouldn't be burdened with is trying to have a meeting with other people when they're not available. And frankly, just wasting your time doing that. Additionally, I always like the idea that the buck stops with somebody. So if something's not getting done on a committee, it's very easy to point the finger at somebody else. If it's your responsibility to do something, it's not getting done, it's very difficult to avoid responsibility for that. But the first place I would look would be myself, to ensure that we've firstly got the right person in the right place. And secondly, they've got the tools to do their job. I see my job as giving you guys the responsibility and the ability and the tools to do the job that you're being tasked with. Nobody's going to get sent out there on a limb on their own. Ultimately, I'm the one responsible for everything, and so it behooves me to make sure that everybody can do what we're asking them to do and to set reasonable goals and expectations. So, Commissioner Freeman.
I would love to see a list of the responsibilities of tasks that would be handed out, and I would love for the commission to be able to look at the responsibilities and see if any resonate with them, because me being new to the commission and Pam, you have no idea what we're capable of doing and what our real history is. And you may assign me something, and Pam may be like, oh, I wish I got that. And might be like, oh, I really don't have the tools for that. So I think it would be great to have the commission and make a majority vote for the commission to decide the responsibilities for us. That is, and we can do that, because what happened in the past that was very dysfunctional in the past commissions, let's break that pattern. Let's have it open to the entire commission to discuss and see what gifts that we have. Oh, that resonates with me. Otherwise, it's almost like putting the responsibilities in a hat and passing them around and having us pull them out of a hat. You know, so that I feel I would like to see it an open discussion of what the responsibilities are and see who would be interested in those responsibilities, rather than being told, this is what you have to do.
I understand. Has anybody got any responses to Commissioner Freeman? Commissioner Steiner?
As I said earlier, I defer to the chair, and that's how it's been in the past. And we know our charge under the ordinance to report to the city council, to be out in the community, to take the community issues back. I can recite it, but I think those are really the responsibilities. And I think Nigel well explained that in those relevant spheres, we would engage with respective communities. So if it's public art, that's one thing. If it's performing arts, musical arts, literary arts, I think there are communities within our community where those responsibilities can rest. Moreover, because we haven't been doing any work in so long, I think there's probably leftover work that we have to do in any event. And I realize I'm speaking too long. The only additional thing I would say with respect to these committees is that I'm a great believer in putting appropriate responsibility where it should be. And I think many of these committees had in fact been doing the work of the staff. And that's inappropriate for so many reasons. And so repositing responsibility back with the staff for staff matters and with the commission for commission matters makes a great deal of sense to me.
Commissioner West?
Yeah, I just, again, welcome our new members, and because of the process by which you're chosen, the very time I even get to meet you is at a public meeting where we vote on things that are going to the commission. But I think I can speak for the three of us that are welcoming you, that we're going to get to know each other a lot, and that's going to happen really fast too. So it's just the situation that brought us here, And Susan, if you can carry it to the city, just that this is exactly why the discomfort that a new member would feel that they're going to have to, to clean the toilets because we don't know who they are and what they do, and this is how they're thrust into our government process. There needs to be a more friendly way to welcome our commissioners who I know serve the city in very valuable ways. So.
Thanks. Your points are well taken. There's no question. I understand them, and I think they certainly have some validity. The issue that I have, not only in addition to what Commissioner Steiner said, is that people play favourites. There's horse trading that goes on, and it can become very negative with regard to pressure from one commissioner to another, and we have certainly seen plenty of that over the last few years when these things have been discussed. And frankly, a lot of stuff happened and probably would happen again behind the scenes inappropriately. So the power that resides in the chair to divvy up responsibilities, I think, has a greater importance than it appears initially to avoid those types of things. I would hope that any chair of any commission or the council would have a reasonable idea of who they're sitting with and what they are available and capable of doing. It's not always true that we have the best idea of what we can do ourselves, even if we think we can. And I'm somebody, as a matter of fact, who likes to challenge people to do things that they don't think they can do. I would never ask anybody to do something that I don't think they can do. And then, as I say, if I do, then the responsibility and the onus for that failure is on me. That resides on my shoulders and nobody else's. I've got pretty broad shoulders. And so, with respect, I don't agree in the final analysis. I think that it's important that the chair retains certain responsibilities and certain functions, and with the ability, you understand, to change them at any time. So we can assign people areas of responsibility. If it's not working, then we can make a change at that point. If we have to discuss everything every single time we want to make a minor change or flip somebody on this commission or that commission, committee or that committee, it's just not efficient. It's the antithesis of I think what we're trying to do here, which is to make people responsible for whatever their area may be. Now, I can absolutely guarantee you, Commissioner Freeman, that I'm not going to make you responsible for the website. Right? Or cleaning the toilets, or PR. And it is certainly true in the past that those were the jobs that nobody really wanted to do. But Commissioner Steiner's point is really well taken, in that over the years this committee has broadened to such a degree that it has taken over some responsibilities of staff, and that has both been a benefit and an irritation to staff throughout the course of the years, because it blurred the lines. We need to make lines pretty clear here about who's doing what and how we go about it. And that is, I think it's appropriate for how we move forward. So, does anybody else have anything to say on this matter?
Do we need even a motion, or can
Nope.
you just do it right then? That's what I figured.
Unless anyone wants to make a motion about something else, then there is no motion at this point. So it's a discussion. If somebody wants to make a motion to have votes or do something else, then one can do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to make an announcement.
So, do we currently have people on CAPA?
It's an interesting and good question, as a matter of fact. Yes, we do. Currently, Luis, who is on CAPA?
It would be yourself.
That would be me.
Yourself and the planning commissioner.
Right. That's it.
Okay.
again, as chair, I would assign those people. CAPA had to be reorganized because of the change of organization of this commission as well. So it's me, which I just thought it'd be funny to have you say it, as a matter of fact, and the planning commission chair, is it?
Not the chair. It's a assigned commissioner. I don't have that commissioner's name right offhand, but it's one of the commissioners. I don't believe it's the chair, though.
And the public people on CAPA are no longer there because we have to reappoint or re-request, because there are no CAPA projects
Correct.
at all at the moment. So we don't even have to deal with that until such a point as we have a CAPA issue. And typically, and Louise, correct me if I'm wrong, can you have more than one CAPA at a time? If there were 2 CAPAs going, we could have different people on the different projects?
That's a great question. I don't believe so, but I can look into it, and we can report back.
Yeah, please do.
Yep.
The people on CAPA, they always have substitutes as well, because it's a really weird process and it takes a long time, invariably. And so we've had situations where commissioners have come and gone in the amount of time that a project has taken place. And so it's kind of a revolving door. I'm really, really hoping that we don't have a revolving door anymore. And yes, I'm looking at every one of you right now. So it's up to me to decide who it is. And at this point, I would choose Vice Chair West, simply because if I'm not available, then I think it makes sense to have the chair of the Arts Commission. If he's not there, or if I'm not there, then the next senior person online for that. So, and then we would have an alternate, which I haven't made a decision on that at this point. Yes.
I have a question. You can also, the Art Commission selects 2 artists from the community. Could Pam and I be 2 artists from the community?
No, that it would actually be a Brown Act violation in order to do that.
That is correct, because you are a commission member, so you can't have more than 3 on a.
Or more than 2 now.
More than 2, correct.
Yeah.
And then just for, I apologize. Go ahead.
And both Pam and I, I know I've had 40 years of public art experience, creating public art, working with architects and designers, and Pam also has public art. And we are the only 2 professional visual artists on the Arts Commission. Wouldn't it make sense and for the community to have professional artists with experience in public art being the judges on CAPA?
Yeah, so the CAPA, as it would be constituted, presumably would choose 2 similar people from the community to sit on CAPA. And bear in mind too, and Louise, correct me if I'm wrong again, that CAPA comes back to report to the Arts Commission for ratification of anything that they do. So nothing gets by without the full commission agreeing to it anyway. So if you don't like some aspect that CAPA have decided they like, just vote against it. And then they have to go back to the drawing board. Louise, am I correct in that?
You are correct, yes.
Right. So in that respect, you do have a massive impact because you have the final say. Does that address that concern for you?
Yes, but I still feel we should have a visual artist on, at least one visual artist on CAPA. For me, I don't think that's just my point of view. It's just to have someone who's had a lifetime experience.
Yeah, again, the last one, people on CAPA were Barbara Hirsch and Susan Amend, was it?
I believe so. I know Barbara was for sure. I don't recall the second member right offhand.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm certainly open to a conversation about who we should put on CAPA. I don't think there's any problem with that. And you know, honestly, if you've got Barbara Hirsch and Susan Amend on Kappa, I don't think anybody can complain about that with their experience and stature in town. So I'm certainly open to a conversation as to who from the community the Commission thinks should be on Kappa. I'm probably not open to a conversation about which Commission members should be on Kappa, because I think we can replicate that in the community itself. And then we're drawing more people from the community in as well. Okay.
And
Pam, do you have anything to add to that? Or? No?
And if I may, Chair, I'd just like to go ahead and clarify the Planning Commissioner assigned to serve on Kappa is Commissioner Lottis. Commissioner Lottis from the Planning Commission. That's
Right.
who's been
Okay.
assigned.
Thanks very much. So again, it's not a critical issue simply because we have, Susan, I'll get to you in just a moment. There are no Kappa projects at the moment anyway. So we can revisit this conversation when one comes in. There's plenty of time from when the project comes in to when that Kappa board gets going. So it never happens fast. So we can revisit it without any problem. So that's that. So if anybody has anything else to say, Susan, would you like to advance and be recognized on the microphone so that people can hear you?
Do you know that Commissioner Lottis is no longer on the planning commission?
Thank you for that. I was not aware, but thank you. I will go ahead and get the correct
That's
commissioner.
so embarrassing right now. I can see the look in your eyes.
Thank you for that.
We have 2 new planning commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Right, so I am actually the only person on Kappa at the moment. It's really lonely on there. Right, so unless anybody else has anything to add, then I'm going to announce that we're going to disband all committees with the option to renew and add any in the future at my discretion, as is the chair's purview. And the only 2 remaining committees will be Kappa and the Public Art Committee. In the coming days, I will be contacting each of you, and we can go and have coffee, glass of wine if you'd prefer, and I will explain to you your area of responsibility, and we'll sit down and work out a plan to move forward. And I'm really, really, really excited to be able to get our fingers back into the community, which is where we should never have left in the first place. Right, so that's that one done. Right, grants. Moving along pretty quickly here. We have somebody here who took action that they shouldn't have taken, but nonetheless they didn't really have an option. So, Luis, do you want to explain what happened here? And Kim, if you want to get ready to come and talk to us.
So for this one, I will go ahead and defer to Robin here.
Thank you. Okay, so on September 17th in 2019, the townies applied for a 2020 arts grant, which the Arts Commission approved and provided a $4,000 grant. So this grant was to partially fund Creature Comforts, which was the inaugural program of the townies Out Loud Solo Performance Development Program. So this grant's project completion was originally required by December of 2021 and was extended by the Commission to June of 22. So recently, Kim Maxwell, who's here today of the townies, has recently advised staff that the artist performing in Creature Comfort is no longer able to participate in the project due to a personal emergency. So the townies have proposed a replacement solo performance, which is called a white album. So what they want to do is take a white album and make that the inaugural Townies Out Loud show. So a white album features local singer and performer Rain Perry. So what the grantee is requesting is that the commission allow the townies to amend the $4,000 arts grant and apply it to the performance of a white album instead of the original performance of Creature Comforts.
Knock yourself out.
Got it?
What is the action that I should not have taken?
No, I may just have actually misunderstood. I thought you'd already done it.
Oh,
So
no.
I misspoke.
No, I'm Canadian. We don't do things without asking. And basically, it's everything that you just said. We wanted to come to you because we can't move forward with the inaugural project that we had planned, but we have used the pandemic for, is to create the structure for the Townies Out Loud program. And we have several projects in line, because this was always designed to be the pilot project to launch it and to have several other one-person shows. And the very next in line is Rain Perry. And we already have a completed second draft. We have a reading set for that on Friday, because we want to just keep things moving. And we would very much like to, this is a project that is very dear to our hearts at the Townies Inc. It is aligned with our mission to connect people one story at a time, and especially right now. I think that that's really important. And Rain's project, A White Album, just really happens to, I think, have its finger on the pulse of the difficult issues and the difficult conversations that we need to be having now, speaking for myself as a white person, and addressing those issues. And her album, A White Album, debuted a couple of months ago to rave reviews, and the script is based on that. It will have, we're not sure exactly how large the band will be, but there will be live music that will be supporting her in the show.
Thanks very much. Does anybody have any questions for Kim? Commissioner West?
Yes.
You've received the money already, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's, 9/10 of the law, right?
Anybody?
I'd just say Kim and Rain are just very respected, unless this violates some protocols. I would be definitely in support of it.
Lewis is just about to speak to it, but I think I can probably jump that one. Is that any changes to any grant that we give have to be authorised by the Commission, which is why Kim is here right now. So,
It's
Commission.
both.
Oh,
Yeah,
Council
it's
also.
both. So essentially, it'd have to be approved by the Commission. Commission then makes the recommendation to Council.
yeah, and it would be unusual for Council not to follow the recommendation of Commission, correct? So Kim is here tonight asking for us to agree to the change of the structure of the grant in order that they can produce this new White Album project instead of the original one. And that's about as simple as that is, right? Right.
Was there
Commissioner
further,
Steiner?
the
Hang
other
on,
question
hang on,
was,
Commissioner West, Commissioner Steiner.
You can go ahead, Smitty.
You can't say that, that's my job.
Oh, sorry. So, let me continue.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm very enthusiastic about this project, and especially at this time. I agree with you that the subject matter is so important. I don't know if you were at the music festival when Devone Tynes explained that, in fact, he had been subject only that very weekend to derogatory remarks, and I think we as a community have much work to do around DEI, and so this seems to go directly to that, and I'm not only supportive, I'm enthusiastic.
It's very timely, it's very challenging. Already just the dramaturgical discussions going on with it and the team that we're pulling together. It's challenging, but they're really important, difficult conversations that need to happen. Where better than to start in our town of 82% white people?
Yeah, you don't hear dramaturgical every day of the week, do you? Commissioner West.
I'm just wondering if we should get an updated, is it in our package? Have you done any paperwork on it?
Yeah,
It is.
they didn't ask me to bring an update, but I did prepare an update, if you would like to hear it.
But just, I don't want it to go to council and they say, well, will this be done, or can this happen?
Well, I think I want to leave a little bit of spaciousness, because I don't quite obviously know what's going to be happening with COVID, and all the machinations that have played into it over the last couple of years. But I believe that if we can have till the end of the year, I think we'll be producing the workshop production, which will be 6 performances at the studio, hopefully, inside at the studio. If not, we have a couple of outdoor locations that we're looking at to produce those minimum of 6 performances. And then we've also, over the course of the pandemic, been working on the solo show manual in conjunction with the Philadelphia Fringe Festival. We've established sort of a manual or a packet to hand out, not just to Rain, but to all of the solo artists that are to follow her, so that you have a production manual to know where to go with your new work into the solo arena. And also over the last couple of years, the Fringe Festival has really band together, and now they actually have a whole calendar where they base their productions on everybody else's dates. And so there's actually a really clear trajectory of where you can take your project from here. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to support local voices, and we could just use a little more time to be able to fulfill that. It's a much larger scope, the project,
So-
because it's music. as
So we're
well.
looking at the end of the year, by the
Yeah.
end of the year? Okay.
Oh, before the end of the year,
Okay.
yeah. But if we could have to the end of the year, that gives me a little bit of flexibility. If we can't be inside the studio, then we have to be in an outside venue. And so I just need a little room to massage that, about where that performance would take place.
Okay. So unless anybody has got any questions, comments, observations for Kim, then I'm ready to make a motion. I haven't made the motion yet. So the motion would be to accept the change to the previous grant to accommodate the request from the townies. Do I have a second?
Can I second that?
You may.
Okay.
If we may have a vote, please, Luis.
Absolutely. So we'll begin with Commissioner Steiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Vice Chair West,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
and Chair Chisholm.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, and I apologise for you having to sit and wait so long.
No, it was actually, I learned a whole lot. And I wish you all luck and peace with your strategic plan, and that it creates spaciousness and gentleness in a kind of a rough time. And I really appreciate it. I know you guys all work for free, so thank you.
So while you're there,
Yes, sir.
one of the goals of this commission, as far as I'm concerned, would be to have people like yourself come and talk to us periodically at the start of the meetings, let us know what's going on, how we can help you, and how we can interact with you. So don't be surprised if you get an email asking you to do that, and if you wouldn't mind spending 10 minutes of your time at the start of the meeting, just so that we can, in a similar way that Mark did earlier on today.
That
so
would
that we
be
can interact
that
with
would
you.
be absolutely delightful. It would be really wonderful to talk about what's going on and the results of this show and where we're going with a lot of. We used this last 2 years to really expand. We went from 5 board members over the last 2 years to 12. In order to sort of realize our strategic statement, our vision, our mission, and our values. And that's been the work that we've been doing, and expanding our online programming. And it's very exciting, and I would love to come and hang out with all y'all.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Thank
Kim.
you, guys.
Thank you very much. Right, so that's that one done. On to the next page. And we're getting remarkably close to the end here. The Art Grant Programme. There's not really too much to be talking about here at this point, I don't think. The main issue that I've got with the grant program is that the paperwork is ridiculous. To say it's overburdens people who are looking for a grant is to understate what actually happens with that. I have been talking with staff about how we can reduce the burden on those requesting grants, and I think we can probably reduce it pretty significantly, in that the idea would be to reduce it to just a couple of pages while we have access to all the information that we need, so that we're not wasting your time, we're not wasting our time. It's not like we're living in the middle of San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York. We all know each other. And as part of that change, it occurs to me that the only time we ever see people who request grants are when they come in and they're required to make a presentation of 2 minutes to us, which occurs to me that it's not a lot of time to tell us what you want to do, and it limits the amount of interaction that we can have with that as well. So it seems to me that we may want to spread that process out over more than one meeting so that we can actually have a conversation about what's going on and dig in a little bit deeper. The problem after that is that we never see you again. And the only requirement is that you have to tell the city that you have completed your project. Well, in between those 2 points, there's a massive amount of stuff going on that we just aren't aware of. So I would like to change how we do the grants program to require anybody who receives a grant from the Arts Commission for a project to come and report twice prior to the project and once at the end of it, and let us know what happened. And it sure would be nice if the Commission was invited to come and attend the project upon its completion, or however that may go. I don't think we can force anybody to do that, and that wouldn't be considered and construed as a gift, would it?
My initial concern to having everybody there is that it creates a
Brown
quorum.
Act violation?
Yeah, it creates a quorum. And there could be possible, the commission could go ahead and, it would be hard to stop the commission from discussing.
So let me
this.
change what I said. It would be nice if 2 members of the Arts Commission were invited to go to the projects prior to their completion, in order to just be a part of the community. With regards to the gift, I'm happy to pay for my ticket, so there's no issue there, I presume. It also occurred to me that I might like to institute a micro grants program for maybe less than $100, $50, whatever we thought of. I don't even know if anybody else thinks it's a good idea. And the paperwork for that could be much reduced also. So if there were some needy families in town, or a needy person, or somebody who was just a bit short on whatever they needed to do, they could apply for a grant, a micro grant from this commission, and we would be able to actualize what they need to do with $25 or $50 or $75. Those are just a couple of thoughts of mine. I'll open it up to a conversation from the commission. Commissioner Steiner.
I have a thought on microgrants, which is that it troubles me. Certainly during COVID and also immediately after the Thomas fire, there were a number of organizations in town that did a very good job of pinpointing those who needed money and getting them to them. And I think there are ways to go to the community to get the support to provide those grants. And there were a number of entities within the city that did that, but I don't think it would be the Art Commission's place to do so. I don't see how it falls under our purview.
Okay, so your suggestion may be that we provide a grant to another organization for them to distribute the micro grants?
I would support that.
Anybody else have any comments, observation? I'm trying to look over this way as much as possible, but we're leaning this way for sure. Anybody else? Pamela?
Well, when you say micro grants and speak of amounts of $25 or under 50, I'm wondering what kind of impact that could have and how that could be used. And again, I agree with Christine, that's probably not our role and where it would come from our budget.
So it would just come from the grant budget. We'd just cut out a little piece of that to go for micro grants. And I agree with you. I'm not necessarily advocating for it. I just think it might be kind of a cool idea.
A good example.
A kid who wants to start drawing, but his parents cannot afford a set of crayons.
So then we're back to why Wayne thinks we need money in the arts education budget.
Quite possibly. But I don't think I don't think we could use that money to give to a member of the community. So it would have to be a grant. It would have to come through the grant process.
And this is where I think having relationships with all the organizations, like, Valerie and I are both members of the Ojai Studio Artists, where we have excess of art supplies and artists and mentors and people, and could easily show up with what's needed. If we got a call from the Arts Commission chair and said, hey, I've got a kid here who needs some art supplies, boom, we're on it. So it's about creating better relationships in the community and us all working together to heal and provide.
That's a fantastic point. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to create that symbiosis between us and the end user. And if the organization like the Ojai Studio Artists exists and have that functionality, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be building those relationships and letting the community know that they can come and request things from us and we can send them directly over there. Or just take us out of the equation and just make it known that that is possible. Anything else? Commissioner Freeman? No?
In regards to grants?
Yes. Nope. Anybody else? No? Okay, so that's pretty much it on the grant program. We can continue that discussion moving forward. Did we need to take a vote on something there? Completely skipped over something. I don't think there was anything there that. Just let me have a look at my note on my previous page. I made a note that made me think we needed to take a vote on something. Oh, right. To change the requirement to have people who receive grants to come and report to us twice prior to their performances. Just give us updates, and then once at the end. Does that require a vote because we're changing the procedure?
Yeah. So, and just to have it clear and concise, it would be easier to go ahead and have
Okay,
this
so
vote.
Commissioner West?
Might I suggest that I think our strategic planning process is going to heavily address education and grants and mentoring, and probably from that we're going to have other changes as well, and we're still probably more than 6 months away from awarding any grants.
I don't know if we are 6 months away from awarding any grants.
No?
That thing could crop up real fast.
Oh, October, huh? Yeah.
Commissioner Steiner? Well, and we have to decide them prior to the funds being
They're
dispersed.
usually due in October, and we award them in January, right?
Commissioner Steiner?
I think Smitty is suggesting we defer this, and I would agree. We certainly want prospective grantees to come speak with us, and I'm concerned when organizations, likely volunteers, have so much to do, to then touch base with us, not twice, but 3 times, feels onerous to me.
Does twice feel onerous?
Once in the beginning and then once report out. One question I would have looking at our clock is whether we would even be able to entertain that scope, depending on how many grantees we have. I would recommend that we keep it as is for this first year, see how it works. I haven't been through this process except on Zoom, which feels very strained, and we have 2 new commissioners. So I would suggest that we not add at this point.
A burden.
A
Yeah, I mean,
burden.
I absolutely understand that.
And I recognize you don't want it to be a burden. Part of it should be the exchange, and that's really valuable.
So the hope is that it was sorry, I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, and I interrupted you, but I think we're saying the same thing, which is that we are encouraging that kind of interaction with the community. My question is whether or not we should be using the grant process to bring that about.
Yeah, so one would hope, I'll get you, Kim, in a moment. One would hope that as we inculcate ourselves into the community more, people would want to include us in the process. It almost strikes me as a failure if we have to force people to come and tell us what's going on. And so while I don't necessarily think coming to talk to us twice and then once at the end is onerous particularly, I don't think it's a problem with time because not everybody's going to come in on the same day. But I do get it. And if 3 times is onerous, plus the initial grant, then I don't have a problem with 2 either. I probably don't even have a problem with 1, as long as we know what's going on at some point and that we're keeping people on track, whatever that number may be. I also don't have a problem with leaving it exactly the way it is in order to see if we can encourage the community to come and speak with us more often by being part of their community at the same time.
Chair, if I may, and I apologize for interrupting. One of the things, from a staff perspective, I would go ahead and recommend is to defer this matter on to the next meeting. The reason why is because just looking at the calendar and announcing the grants, traditionally, grants would be announced next month. Unfortunately, that can't be done because there hasn't been any money allocated to the grant specifically. So I would go ahead and recommend whether it be yourself and the staff liaison work on doing a schedule or a timeline for the grants, and then bring back any other changes that.
So perhaps we can reopen the budget conversation very briefly. Is that possible?
So We can, if there's any amendments, then we would have to go ahead and make an amendment to the motion.
Right, so in order to keep the grant process on target, perhaps we may want to consider assigning money to the grants now. Otherwise, it's going to delay us not by 1 month, but by 2 months, as a matter of fact. Correct?
So, correct.
So historically, well, the last 2 years, it's been $25,000
Mm-hmm.
that has been awarded to the grants. That would leave about $8,500
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of the budget.
Yeah.
So,
And initially, in order to go ahead and do that, we'd need a motion to go ahead and reconsider what was voted upon on the budget, and then vote on whatever is going to be allocated.
right, so I'll make a motion to reconsider and open that topic of the budget one more time. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Thanks. Let's have a roll
That
call
we'll,
then.
we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Commissioner Freeman?
Here.
Chair Chisholm?
Yes.
Commissioner Steiner?
Is this just a motion to reopen it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Right, thanks everybody. So we'll make this short and sweet because it doesn't have to be long. Firstly, the question is in order to avoid the grant process being delayed by a couple of months, we can assign some of the budget to the grant right now with the understanding that we're not going to be able to change that figure at a later date. Correct, Louise?
The commission, correct.
So, does anybody have an issue with assigning, or does anybody have any comments about assigning a portion of the proposed funds from the city for our functioning to the grant process tonight?
I have a question, and
Commissioner
that
Steiner?
is, because it's essentially steady state from last year, did we think that last year worked well in terms of how much money we had and how much need there was?
You're never going to have enough money to give away.
Whatever.
Right,
And
so,
25,000
so
is-
the question is was it enough in the context of the budget that we had? And that's a pretty interesting question because we didn't use a lot of the funds that were assigned to various different buckets last year because of COVID. So I don't know that we know the answer to that question. I think all we can do is look at what's reasonable and what's historically we do with regard to grants. And that number, Luis, is typically being between $25,000 and $35,000 a year, if I'm correct.
Correct.
So
So where I was going with this question is, if last year we allocated the same amount and we turned back $7,200, should we in fact bump up what we're putting into the grants with the sense that we know that there's a need, and that's probably one of the major aspects of our annual obligation, as well as our annual joy. Recognizing that we have slightly less money than last year, but I don't think we want to find ourselves in a position of turning back money when there is such need. It is on. Can, I'll speak louder, sorry. My light is green, can you hear me? Okay.
A little closer.
Oh, sorry.
you're a lawyer. Come on.
Okay,
Project.
so that is my point. So there we go. Did you hear my points? Okay, yeah, okay. Great. So it's just a question. If we're going to allocate for the grants, was the 25 enough last year? And in light of the fact that we are returning some money, should we bump it up this year? And perhaps the answer is no. We know we've got strategic planning. That's going to cost money. We know we're encouraging the community to come see us. That's very different from a pandemic situation. And perhaps the answer is let's keep it right where it is, but I did want to raise that question.
Yeah, I think it's valid, and I don't have a response to it because I don't know. I'm in the same situation as everybody else. I don't know what's appropriate. What I do know is, having gone through 3 or 4 of these grant processes, is that we can rarely give people what they want or need or desire, and we have to make choices. We're never going to have enough, and we actually should be making those choices anyway about what we need and what's valid and what isn't, and what we think can be functional within our community. But I don't know what the right number is. As it stands, if the city council gives us $32,300 and we assign $25,000 to grants, then that gives us $7,300 for the rest of it. And the question really is that enough to do what we want to do? So not is the 25,000 enough? Is it too much, given that the workshop may cost a couple of grand, $2,500 maybe? Commissioner West?
This is the problem with reopening the budget thing, is because we could have this discussion about every item going down the list. You're talking about you're freezing up now, the great majority of what we're asking for. Anyways, it seems like we still I'm not quite sure what the advantage is of earmarking it in terms of our timing. We're supposed to get back within the 30 days of the city with the actual.
The issue is that we would decide grants next month. If we don't decide this now, we're not meeting for another month, so we can't have this discussion for a month, and then it's a month later.
So for clarity, it's in order to get the grant applications out to the community, we need to have a allocated amount when we're going to be when we're going to be visiting. If there's any other changes to the grant application, we want to make sure that we capture all those before we put the actual application out, right. So that way we set clear standards
right.
for
so
any applicants.
we'd be delaying that process.
Well, just not knowing the number doesn't do that. It just affects the amount we award in the end. I mean, you're going to have to come up with your 2-page thing or the online thing application anyways, and the process will be the same.
That's not a particularly long process, I don't think. But the issue is do we want to allow that process to move forward now by awarding a certain amount in that bucket, or are we comfortable leaving it for a month? Mm-hmm. Commissioner Graham?
I think we should agree upon an amount tonight so we can get the grants started, because I think it's a very important aspect of the Arts Commission, handing out the grants annually. I have a question about if we moved our mentorship, and I know this is not where we're at right now, but I think we could probably get this budget approved, which would allow us to move forward this year. If the mentorship money went into arts education, could arts education be used to fund an educational project that might show up as a grant? If we did not have enough money to give away in grants, and there was a project that came up, I'm just asking this as a question.
The answer is yes.
Okay. So potentially, if we moved a little bit more money into arts education, and moved it out of mentorship, because mentorship could fall under arts education, having that little padding in arts education could allow us to divert money that maybe we found we had in the grants fund.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, the answer is just yes, we can. We can.
And I do think we need PR
utilize
money
things in different ways.
to address strategic planning. And also, part of what I've been told on this commission is that we really do want to reach out to the community and heal a lot of, bring a lot of organizations together, but that's going to take some PR budget.
Right, yeah. In the context of doing that, we don't have to decide what that number is tonight. And if we can just zero in on what this number is for the grants, it allows them to crack on doing what they're doing. And I can get with staff and work out what that new packet will look like in the next few days, really, to make that happen. Commissioner Freeman, anything to add?
I think we should keep it at the 25,000 because the grants really support the grant applications. They support the community. And just to move on with the whole grant procedure, I would just keep it at the 25,000.
Okay, anybody else got anything to add? Commissioner Steiner?
I would simply add, I agree, let's keep it steady state. And there's a very appealing symmetry, which is that if we take the 25, then we're looking at 70-something, which is essentially the same amount we turned back last year, because frankly, we weren't doing anything. So it gives us that amount, and that's very appealing to me.
Commissioner West, anything to add? No? Commissioner Grant? Anybody want to make a motion? I've done them all tonight.
I motion that we keep the 25,000 for grants.
So the motion on the floor is that we would assign $25,000 from the budget to go into the grants tonight, and the rest to be assigned at a later date.
I'll second.
And Commissioner Freeman seconded it.
So with that, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Commissioner West?
Yes.
Commissioner Steiner?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Chair Chisholm?
Yes.
And Commissioner Freeman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so that's that dealt with. Thanks, everybody. I think it's actually quite important to keep that grant project
You're going to
rolling.
assign that
Especially
to
with
someone,
timing.
right?
Yes, somebody is going to get assigned that, and I know exactly who it's going to be, and they're not going to be very happy about it because it's an onerous process, but I'm going to try and make it as easy as humanly possible. But again, just whoever gets assigned stuff, they don't just get to do stuff, they have to come back and discuss it with the commission as a whole and take direction from the commission too. So it's not like everybody just go and do what the heck they want. That's not what we're talking about here at all. So there is a handbrake on that. Right, so that was that. Future agenda items. Commissioners, is there anything that you would like to see on the agenda in future for the next meeting? Commissioner Freeman?
I would like to see discussion about the environmental park and about the website.
Right on. Robin, I presume that you're making these notes? Fabulous. Pamela Grau, is there anything that you would like to see on the agenda next month?
Not at this moment.
Not at this moment. This is your only moment. Commissioner Steiner?
Nothing.
Okay.
Well, strategic plan, 5-year plan.
So something. So if you don't mind putting on the strategic plan conversation.
It's just preliminary. I think we need to start that.
Yep. Commissioner West? All right. Actually, I'd like to see a report from you on that at the next meeting. It's almost like we're on the same wavelength. How about that stuff? We need to revisit the budget next week, next month. Goodness gracious me, 7:25. And that is, at this point, the only things that, unless the grants, of course, we'd have to revisit those. And those are the only things at this point that I would like to see on the agenda. That may change. If commissioners, you find anything that you want to put on the agenda in between now and then, please let me know. With regards to communication with city staff, they are overburdened already. We do have a protocol in place that if you need any information, as the email that I sent out yesterday, please come to me first. I may have the information. If I don't, I will find it. But we need to have a single point of communication with the city staff so they're not running around trying to do 5 people's biddings on every commission in this town. That is a lot of work for them. A lot of the answers to the questions that you may have will reside within this commission itself. On that, there is a handbook. We need to do something about this. Because if I drop this on somebody's foot, it could do some serious damage. So I know staff are going to be looking at that with myself over the course of the next month to reduce the burden of this. And there will be some changes in this necessarily because of the ordinance. So use this as a guide only for right now. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But again, I urge you to not burden the city staff with emails, telephone calls, or anything else. Burden me with that. That's my job. Wherever I happen to be in the world, my phone will work. Just respect what time zone I'm in. Right. Staff liaison report, please.
Okay, we have a few items here, starting with a look at the projects that are subject to the public arts requirement. And you have the attachment in your packet here. The only thing that's really new on here, and it's kind of a big one, is the El Roblar project. And that was approved. And we have received in an escrow account, $50,971.74 toward public art. And let me just kind of briefly tell you, what happened there. And this was during the period in time when.
Sorry, is your microphone on?
It is on. Could you not hear me?
No.
Okay.
And I just want to point out as well that I completely skipped over this, Ray. So when the city staff are done with the report, you can come and add your bit to that. Sorry.
That's okay. So briefly with El Roblar, they are eligible for public art of the $50,971. There was a lot going on with a planning appeal, the Arts Commission not meeting, the change in the size and structure of the commission, and the change in the structure of CAPA that would be approving that. So they came to us and asked for an extension, and as we can say a good faith measure, we have an agreement with them where they actually gave us the money to hold that they will be using for public art. So they wanted to take the time to really have a final design so they could know where they were going to put the art and how that would all work. So we're in close contact with them on a monthly basis, and they have until the meeting of October 21st to have an approved project. So we're going to get moving on that in the next couple of months, I hope, and then we can form the CAPA and move forward. So that's the only thing that's new on here. And then we're going to jump forward. Excuse me. To the Public Art Fund. And with the Public Art Fund, there are no changes here. And I will point out again, we kind of went back and forth. Should the El Roblar dollars go onto this document? And this is really just an internal document for us to work with, so you guys can get a visual look at what the Public Art Fund is. And it's not really in there. It's going to go out one way or another when they spend it on their art. So we have not included it. If the commission would like it to be included as a pending item, we can do that. But when Luis and I discussed it's not really a credit pending even. It's just being held. So that's what I have. Oh, and finally, you had mentioned the website. We are working on a new website for the city and for all of our sub-sites, which includes the Arts Commission site. This is a great thing. We really want to make all of our sites more interactive. We want to make them kind of all in line with the city brand, but we want the sub-sites to continue to have their own identity and their own URL. So this means that the Arts Commission site will technically fall under the city site, but no one in the public needs to even know that. We could still have commissioners who can go in and do the editing like we did before, but it will really give us some advantages. We can have common storage, a common look, and interaction that will kind of be reflective of the main site. So it'll be a lot easier for people to get on it and find what they need to find. So we're super excited about that. It's going to be at least 6 months to make that happen, but we're moving forward, and we'll get input from this group on kind of what you want to keep, what you want to change, and what that website should look like.
All right, excellent. Thanks very much. And just as a note, that during the conversation about the climate park next meeting, we're going to be needing to address the money and the allocation of the money for the climate park. And I'll leave that there, because that's going to be an interesting conversation for sure. Thank you very much. You certainly may.
Hi, Robin. In regards to the El Roblar Hotel project, are they going to be choosing the artist are they choosing an artist and choosing what they would like and the place they would like to put it, and then they're going to bring that to CAPA?
Exactly. So they have an application that they complete. They have the option of working with an art consultant, and Louise, jump in if I miss anything. So what some of these businesses do with the larger projects, they do bring a consultant. They have some ideas that they've thrown by us already, and they want to explore some different ideas. Then they'll prepare a proposal that says we'd like to do this art in this place with this artist, and they'll provide the CAPA with that information, who will meet with them and really have a discussion. To see, how that works in the eyes of the CAPA and the eyes of the developer. Then it all comes back to the full Arts Commission.
Yeah, and I've reached out to them directly too, just to let them know that we're here to help them along in that process.
Okay, and I just hope that the work is visible from the street, because there are some public or art fund pieces that are not falling within the the code here of the 209, that the public does not have access to the public art. So it's really important that they're not going to make a sculpture and put it out by their pool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's something that CAPA would address, and subsequently and finally the Commission would address too by either approving or not the design. So, but your point is well taken, and we should have that conversation at some point in the future with regard to the location of public art. And it's a Christine probably has got a lot to say on that, because although it's public art, it's actually on private property, and you can speak to that in depth, I would imagine. Right, so. Absolutely not now, but Ray, I just want to jump back a little bit. Ray does have a pink slip here, so Ray, if you've got anything to speak about the grants. I apologise for missing your slip.
And I realize it's late. I'm used to 3 and 4 hour meetings being on when I was a planning commission.
We're having a nice conversation
But
here.
I really appreciate how efficient you've been tonight, and mostly what I want to say is how much I value the Arts Commission, and have always felt that the Arts Commission has been underfunded by the city. Ojai's known as an art town. It's marketed that way. Those that know me, they know that I call it as I see it, but I get it's my opinion. When I see other expenditures that the city spends their money on, and then how small the budget is for the Arts Commission, it's a little worrisome, so not to call anything in particular out, but I am, there's a $32,000 budget for Arts Commission, and $75,000 was spent on a pickleball court, and other things. Now, I love pickleball players. I don't play. I think there could be a little more lobbying from artists towards the city. I am a grateful recipient of 5 arts grants from the Arts Commission. One was due right after Thomas Fire, so I wasn't able to complete it the way I wanted, but I was allowed to complete it in the way I could. The last one, which Christine helped me with, she was assigned my grant, and I spoke to Nigel about as well. Honestly, I gave the money back because it just wasn't enough to create the project. And I really want to encourage, and I wanted to say this publicly so it's on record, and encourage the city to really look at the budget to fund in a much greater way the value of the Arts Commission and the number of artists here and the number of disciplines within the arts that exist here. Some of you may remember in 2016 when I wrote a symphony called Valley of the Moon, and I got a $3,000 grant. That project cost me $10,500. I had to raise a lot more money, which created some donor fatigue when I got other grants and had to raise money. There's Ray again asking us for money with his hand out, put me as an artist in kind of a pickle. And the feedback at that time that I got from the Arts Commission, completely different commission, was, well, good for you. You're an example to show other artists how you can go out and do a matching fund and make even a lot more than we gave you. So it was spun and flipped on me. And I went, well, yeah, I get that. But it costs a different amount to do an elementary school grant arts program and writing a symphony, or doing a huge sculpture, or the mural that we were able to complete as well, which ended up costing a little over $10,000 with the website and everything. I believe I got $3,500 from the Arts Commission for that mural. So I just wanted to bring that forward. 2 main points. I really asked the city to look at the budget like seriously, because $32,000 is enough and $25,000 isn't enough for grants for the number of artists here and the number of great projects there are. We want the artists to have a living wage. And the second thing is like I said, just the value I have here. Now, in regards to the grant itself being more simplified that you mentioned, I'm a little curious on what you think needs to be simplified. Because in the grant, to me, the city grant, the way it is, I get it's a lot of paperwork cumulatively when you receive all the grants on your end. As an artist applying for the grant, it's one of the simplest grants I've ever had to do. I mean, I look at grants from all over the country that interest me, and some of them like are requiring 20 pages. They're for more money, but they're really vetting, and they want a lot up front from me. I think our grant process does a couple things. The questions in it really helps me clarify what my grant is about. Like, there's no excess meat on the grant application that I see. It helps me hone in and really focus, what is it I want to do? Who is it going to contribute? How's it going to impact the community, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I do feel for the amount of paperwork you all receive to look at, but for me, it's kind of a simple grant.
Thanks, Ray. I think you might be a closet bureaucrat. A closet bureaucrat. But thanks for that. And we'll work with staff to see what's necessary on the grant application and what isn't. It's
I'm an out of the closet advocate.
Maybe. We're going to have a nightmare next meeting because you brought pickleball up, and anybody who's watching it will be filled with pickleball players in here. So thanks for that as well. Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you for your comments. Right. Commissioner comments. We shall start with the newbies, shall we? Commissioner Freeman.
Comment?
Say anything you want as
oh.
long as it's within reason.
Thank you so much. It's just an honor to be part of the Arts Commission, and I'm really excited for Ojai. I feel we have it's a tight team. I think we're going to get a lot accomplished smoothly, and I'm just excited. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Grau.
I, too, am very grateful to be here tonight, and it's an honor to serve this town and community, and look forward to bringing everything I've got to the party.
Thanks very much. Commissioner Steiner?
I will echo what my two colleagues have said. Welcome to both of you. I look forward to working with you. We've got a lean team, we've got a happy team, and I think we've got a lot of work to do.
Thanks. Vice Chair West.
Again, welcome new members. We're going to have some fun. I look forward to our strategic planning process. I know that will bring us together, bring us closer to the community, make budgeting in the future easier, making small decisions much easier when we have eyes on the prize of something big. I want to thank our public commenters today, especially Raymond for your comments. Sousa, we're going to make the council so proud of this commission that you're going to make Ray happy by increasing our budget here too. So this should be absolutely the funnest job in the city, to take this beautiful opportunity we have with our human resources in the arts community and taking and presenting it back to the public as a kind of mirror that we can all share. So I thank all you. Welcome, Robin. Nigel, nice job. Look forward to you, boss.
That's right. Right, firstly, I've got an apology to make. It's now 20 to 8. We've run an hour longer than I anticipated we would, so please accept my apologies, especially staff, because I know that you're in your offices early. And lately, meetings have been going rather late. I want to thank Sousa for being here. It's really important you were here tonight as our staff liaison. So thank you for the work that you do on council. You know that we have a record that we need to correct of something that happened on Tuesday, which we'll deal with that in due course. You want to say something? Come on.
I definitely want to say something. Well, first of all, I feel like I've been attending a monumental meeting. It looks good, full of promise and hope. I've got a lot of work ahead, and I take your work very seriously. I echo and feel many of the concerns that Ray expressed. Not everything, as you know, is in one council person's hands, but I take seriously that Ojai is known internationally as a spiritual and artistic community of intense natural beauty. And in my mind, all the work of all the commissions is extremely important and sometimes not undervalued, because it's all the work is all connected to the heart and soul of Ojai. And there's a couple of things I want to bring up that are beyond your reach, but they're important, I feel, to be aware of. My family came to Ojai in 1957. The first person we met was a very poor, unknown artist, Beatrice Wood. And I basically grew up with her. I was age 7, and we were very connected through all the stages of my life. I had my baby at her house when she had moved to Upper Ojai. But I know that if a Beatrice Wood moved to Ojai now, she could not afford the housing. The single most important job besides possibly increasing your budget, I feel that the single most important job that the city council can do for the artists of Ojai and the families, maybe they have a child they can't afford to buy crayons for, but that's a smaller thing that they can't even afford to live here. And that's the reality. We have what do you call it? It's like a double-edged sword. We have so much wealth in the community, but we don't want to be a place where only rich people can live. And the reality is that there's forces converging, many forces, where this is, unless we fight it tooth and nail, that's what's going to happen. There's not going to be housing where a new artist, a young artist can live, or even an older artist, because if you're an artist, you're self-employed, and I consider myself a literary artist. I've had periods in my life where I've been famous, and I've had really nice royalty streams and been on national television, and now I can't find housing, let alone in District 4, and I'm myself and many other I'm going to hang in there no matter what. But I know so many people that have moved, and I'm sure that you all know long-time Ojai residents that have moved. So if we want to keep, the arts moving in a strong direction, as you're all advocating for, the city has to solve the housing problem, and we have opportunities coming up where I think we can address, truly affordable housing so that the artists can afford to stay here. So I'll leave, because to you this is late. It's still daylight out. I'm used to leaving City Hall at 11:15. We have closed sessions after 10:15. We're not home yet. So, but is there anything you want to quickly ask me? Otherwise, I'll leave.
Commissioners, if anybody would like to ask anything to Sousa, please feel free.
Perhaps not a question, but a comment. There's a saying that budgets are values, and I hear clearly what you are saying, and I agree also with Ray that we are deeply underfunded relative to other communities I see and work with, relative to our stature within the art world, and relative to what we know we could be doing. So I share your.
I hear you.
I hear you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Sousa.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for being here. So I'll just wrap up my comments and say we've got a big job ahead of us, and it occurs to me in the context of the budget conversation that Ray introduced, is that the better we do our job, the more people we'll have behind us trying to increase our budget. And if we do our job well enough, which means we inculcate ourselves into the community and make some real contributions to this town, and actually make the Arts Commission relevant to this arts town, then our budget may be viewed a little bit more favourably. Until then, we have to go do our jobs. And you'll know what they are in the next few days. So you can look forward to that. Thank you all very much. I know that this is it's a challenging place to be right now, because we're on a road and there's a lot of forks in that road, and we're going to be taking the one less travelled. That's for sure. But I have every confidence. I look around the commissioners at the moment, and I'm just filled with hope and gratitude that that we're going to accomplish the goals that we set for us when we find out what they are from our strategic planning session, and everything else will flow from there. I'm absolutely certain of it. Thanks once again to staff. There is a City Council liaison report. We just had it. In that case, unless there's anything else. You jumped in before I was done, and I was just being nice to you. So.
We were trying to end your meeting, so that's why
I can be loquacious sometimes. Don't take a gap for me not wanting to say something. Right, and on that, thank you everybody. We're adjourned.